Russia is holding its biggest public holiday, the Victory Parade, marking the 75th anniversary of the defeat of Nazi Germany in World War II, despite a growing number of coronavirus infections. The parade is usually held on May the 9th, but was delayed because of the pandemic. This year's event holds special significance for President Putin because in a week's time, Russia will hold a constitutional vote which could allow him to stay in power until 2036. Our correspondent Steve Rosenberg has been watching the event in Red Square.
Hurrah!
It was the parade the Kremlin had been determined to stage. On Red Square, Russian military might marking 75 years since the defeat of Nazi Germany. It had been postponed once due to the pandemic, but the president had pledged the parade would go ahead when possible to honour Russia's contribution in World War II.
We will always remember that Nazism was crushed by the Soviet people, by millions of people of different ethnicities from all republics of the Soviet Union.
No masks for the military and no social distancing, but the Kremlin insists this was safe.
Vladimir Putin's decision to push ahead with this parade now is a controversial one. The Kremlin leader claims that the coronavirus is in retreat, but it's not beaten. The city of Moscow alone is registering around 1,000 new COVID cases every day.
So why did Vladimir Putin decide the military show must go on? Partly because Russia's victory in World War II has become a cornerstone of the country's national idea. But more crucially, the president is hoping the parade boosts his popularity ahead of a referendum on extending his rule. Voting starts tomorrow. War veteran Nikolai Yarko wasn't worried. We'll beat the virus, he says, just like we defeated the Nazis. It's fighting talk like that the Kremlin is keen to encourage. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Moscow.
Well, earlier I spoke to our Moscow correspondent Sarah Rainsford, who explained what the public reaction has been to the parade going ahead.
This was a parade that was staged in cities right across the country, fewer than it would normally be in a non-coronavirus year. Some places decided it wasn't safe to go ahead, but a couple of dozen cities that did stage this parade. And interestingly, here in Moscow, as in those cities, mass gatherings, public gatherings are still banned because of the risk of coronavirus. But in fact, here in Moscow, plenty of people did come out on the streets to watch the tanks roll by. They roll down the main street here in Moscow before they head to Red Square, and they came out to see the flyby of some 75 planes and helicopters, again marking 75 years. This is a big national holiday in Russia. It is a major day on the calendar, so people did want to mark it. But of course, there is still that very real risk of the coronavirus. And even though many of the restrictions have been relaxed in recent days here in Moscow, the risk is still present, of course.
And of course, that vote is going to take place next week. What's his popularity like at the moment?
Well, I think that's key to the timing of this vote, because you might argue that there's no need for a vote on constitutional reforms right now, no urgent, desperate political need for that, apart from one thing. President Putin desperately wants, it seems, to have a vote which will allow him, when the constitution is changed, if that's voted for, to stand for president 2 more times. He could be president here in Russia, if he chooses, until 2036. Now, the reason for the haste, well, possibly it is because his rating has been falling recently, and I think he knows that things aren't going to get any better. The coronavirus, of course, has hit the economy here in Russia, as it has affected countries right around the world, and things weren't great before the pandemic, and I think the worry is that coming out of the pandemic, things could be more difficult. So better to get that vote done now than wait too long.
That was our Moscow correspondent Sarah Rainsford there.